So I had a huge argument with my father. Then just a few hours later, the hospital calls my phone. I answer it. They tell me my father's in critical condition. He's been poisoned. I couldn't believe my ears, so I rushed to the hospital, and that's when I find out this. You want to know how my father, who's a 40-year-old male, and I, 20-year-old male, went our separate ways? Well, I would say it all started when I started going to school. I realized that my life was not actually mine. What I had in mind was totally different from what Dad had in his mind. He gave me everything except a choice to be my own person. When I started elementary school, I was never really allowed to watch television. So my dad started taking me along to court sometimes. He was my role model. I wanted to be like him, but not as a lawyer though. I wanted to be a martial arts instructor. I wanted to be a kung fu master. Apart from my dad being my role model, I was inspired by Jackie Chan. I wanted to jump as high as he did, and I wanted to kick as hard as he did. When I went to elementary school, my dad asked which society I wanted to join, and by then, I did not know exactly what I was even interested in, because I did not have a lot of friends to help me find my passion. My dad and I went to my school to sign me up for any society just to help me mingle with other children. As we stood by the principal's office, a boy my age walked past with a white robe and a black belt around his waist. I thought I've seen a little angel. I looked at him with amusement. My dad smiled at me and knelt down, softly rubbed his hand on my head. He looked at me in the eye and said affectionately, I think I know what society you want to join, my dear boy. I smiled and said back to him with enthusiasm, Whoa, did you see how he looked? He looked like a master, so confident and in control. Why is he dressed like that at school anyways, Pops? That's because he fights crime at night, and he jumps high and kicks as hard as a horse. And you know what else? He's part of the Kung Fu, and they're trained to fight and protect the city. Do you want to join them and become a hero as well? And it was at that moment when I fell in love with Kung Fu, and my dad was always so proud of me when it came to martial arts. But I can't say the same for academics. I was a fast learner when it came to martial arts, but when it came to the academic side, I was slow. Extremely slow. One would say even way slower than a sloth. Even though I was doing extremely good in martial arts, I was not at all improving when it came to academics. So when I reached 7th grade, my dad made me a promise that if I was to pass the grade with flying colors, then he would buy me my own car and the latest cell phone. I'd never been happier to hear something from my father. That night at the dinner table, he asked what I wanted to be after I finished with college, but honestly, I never even wanted to go to college. I wanted to pursue my dreams of becoming an instructor. So, this is what I say. I want to go back to the martial art academies and advance my skills and become the best in Kung Fu. I said to my dad with a smile on my face, and the smile on my dad's face faded and he narrowed his lip corners. I wondered if I said anything wrong before he sighed and said, Look here, son. The universe will not feed you if you can't feed yourself. If you become a martial arts instructor, then what? People will not only laugh at you, they'll also make fun of me. I did not enroll you in the best school in town for you to become a kung fu master. I want you to be a lawyer like me, son. And the world will fear us, and we would not even need to introduce ourselves. Ever. I wish I could say he was just pulling my leg, but he was dead serious about what he just said to me. I lost my appetite slowly and left the table and went to my room. I made sure to put extra time into my studies to get a car for myself, so I did not have to put up with my dad always on my case about becoming a lawyer. When results came, I was in my room and Dad walked in with an envelope on one hand and a little box on the other. Son, we need to talk. I wondered what was in the box, and then my heart skipped a beat after my dad said we needed to talk. I thought he wanted to lecture me again about what profession I want to follow. Oh boy, I was mistaken. You make me so proud, son. I guess you only struggle because you don't make time for your studies. Like I promised, here's your new phone, and guess what? Something's waiting outside for you. My eyes literally filled up with tears when I saw the beautiful phone. We walked outside the house, and I simply could not believe my eyes. My dad had really bought me a brand new car. I ran into his arms and embraced him tightly for almost 5 whole minutes. The only problem was, I'd not gotten my license yet, so I had to wait 2 more months before I could take my new ride for a spin and show off to my friends. When I was in high school, my dad decided that I would no longer be a part of extracurricular activities, especially the Kung Fu Club, because he believed that it's because of Kung Fu that I was not putting effort into school. I was heartbroken. I was heartbroken to hear that my dad wanted to take me away from something I loved so much. I was not okay with it. So I decided I was not going to keep quiet and let my dad push me around like a pillow. No, Dad, I'm not going to give up my passion just because you want me to be a stupid lawyer and defend killers and monsters. I'm not giving up my favorite sport just because you say so. I said to my father's face, and I felt after it was my face heating up. My dad had thrown a slap directly square to my face. Was being a lawyer that important that caused my dad to lift his hand against me? I ran to my room and decided to skip school for the day. I was not only sad that my dad hit me, but I was also upset because Dad wanted me to leave my favorite combative sport. Dad never even had the clue that I was already sneaking out to attend the Kung Fu tournaments with my friends on the weekends. And I had a free trainer that I secretly met up with. When Dad came home from work that night, he ordered my favorite food to try to make up for what he's done earlier in the day. He found me laying on the couch playing with my phone. Oh, look, son, I'm sorry I hit you earlier. I don't want my one and only son to end up in the streets when I'm gone because he's made a couple bad choices. I'm your father, Michael, and this is my duty to guide you to make sure you don't end up regretting your life choices. He said to me in a calm, persuasive voice. My dad just said he slapped my face because he was being a good parent. A good parent would understand their children and not force them to be someone they simply don't want to be. My dad was trying to find an excuse to justify his slap for refusing to be a lawyer. So I grabbed as much bravery as I could and I said, "That's not a reason to slap your son, Dad. If you want to be a good father, then understand what I say. Support and respect my decisions. That's all I need for me to know what a good father you really are. And by the way, just because you refuse me to be on the team doesn't mean I'll stop with my passion. And you really can't control what I do and where I go, buddy." I said that to Dad with a bitter, breaking, but calm voice. I could tell his anger was raising again, and he said to me, "Michael, you're making things hard for me, okay? I already get so much stress from clients. I don't need stress from you again. Son, if I were you, I would not want to piss me off. If you continue acting like a spoiled brat, I'll have no other choice but to enroll you in military school. I'd rather have you be part of a military than have you be this so-called Kung Fu master." I'd lost all temper in me, and I could congratulate him for pissing me off like no one's ever done so before. I went to my room and put on my sneakers. I walked past him, went to my car. He tried to stop me, but I had no more strength to listen to my dad baffle me even more. He was really good at changing my moods. I drove off and went to the nearby martial arts academy, where my friend's nephew trained, because martial arts had a thing of calming me down without even trying. I sat and watched the kids train so hard that I've never been inspired even more to work with those little munchkins and help bring the best out of them. I was so mad at my dad that I did not even want to go back home because I knew that my dad would be waiting for me, probably to slap me again like he did last time. He kept calling me, but I was too angry to even answer the phone. First, he stopped me from doing what I wanted to do, then slapped me and threatened to enroll me in military school. That was just too much. I had all the rights in the world to be angry at him and not even pick up his phone calls. That would have maybe helped him realize that he was wrong to have done and said everything. Or so I thought. My dad was really determined to show me flames if I continued saying I wanted to be a martial arts instructor. He finally stopped calling after an hour or so, and I received a call from the hospital. They said my dad has been admitted there. I was shocked to hear that. I left home like an hour and a half earlier, and then I hear my dad's now in the hospital? Well, I rushed to the hospital to find out what's happened. All I was told is now my father is in critical condition. I could not explain where my anger went and how fear just overcame my entire body. I was not only scared to lose the only family I've ever known and to be left all alone, but I was also worried sick. I did not know what to do, and what was worse was that the nurses kept running in and out of my father's room for an hour without even telling me what was wrong. I was desperate, and I was overwhelmed by so many emotions. I kept pacing up and down, all around, waiting for someone to tell me what had happened to my father. It took half an hour or more for a nurse to come out and tell me that my father was poisoned, but they managed to stabilize him. I broke down and I started crying. Who would have poisoned him if he was all alone in the house? Or had someone gone in the house after I left? But that was impossible. Our house security was quite tight. We had security cameras all over the house, electric fence, so there's no way someone broke into the house and poisoned him. Or was he poisoned at work? I had so many thoughts rushing in my head, and I just could not control them. After 3 hours, 2 cops came into the hospital and went straight to the room where my father was. I followed them inside, but they refused to let me enter. My dad had an evil smile come onto his face, looking right at me. A few minutes later, the 2 officers left the room and approached me with quite serious faces. Michael Myers, you're under arrest for attempted murder of your father. An officer said to my face, "What the hell did he just say? I was under arrest for trying to kill my dad? I was not even at home when he got sick. I was not even aware of what was happening until then. I did not poison my dad. Officer, please, let me just go and talk to my dad and find the truth out for you. Why would I want to harm my father out of all the people?" I said to the officer with so much fear and unsettling tone in my voice. The officers put me in handcuffs and took me away to the station like I did not say a thing. Did my father really just tell the police that I poisoned him? I tried to put things together to try to understand why my father said I poisoned him. Did I store bad food in the fridge? I never store leftovers in the fridge. Then what did he mean? We reached the station and I was put in the interrogation room and waited for about 3 hours before an officer came in to interrogate me about my father's attempted murder. After all that your father's done for you, you really wanted to finish him off. Why? Is it because you can't wait to inherit his property? Or is it because you're tired of him telling you what to do? The officer said to me with bitterness, I could say my dad had started recruiting people to hate me. I already told you. I did not do whatever you're accusing me of, police officer. I was not even at home when my dad got sick. I had no idea what was going on until I received a call from the hospital that my dad was poisoned. I don't even know what he was poisoned with. Well, that's what I said to the officer with agony. I hoped for him to understand me, but he did not care at all how I felt. As much as my father annoyed and irritated me, the last thing I would ever do is kill him. As much as he was being a jerk, he was still my father, and I loved him so much. So I could not get how anyone could believe that I wanted to kill him, but I failed. 3 days later, an officer came to my jail cell and said, "Hey kid, you can go home now, we found the real culprit." I was curious to know who poisoned my father. I was ready to make them pay and make them go through a lot. What the officer said next caught me off guard. Turns out my father poisoned himself. That explained the evil smile he gave me at the hospital. He apparently injected himself with a toxin. He had told the officers before that I poisoned his food, but when he went to the hospital, the nurses proved that his system was empty. Meaning he's not eaten at least in the previous 3 hours, and apart from that, the detectives found a syringe of toxin under his bed at home. I was broken into a million pieces to learn that my father had poisoned himself to blame me for it. That was the worst day of my life. All he wanted was to control me and keep me in his shadow. I could not control my feelings. I wanted to go and punch him in his old face for what he's made me go through, what he's accused me of. I realized it's not worth it. He was charged with defamation of character for implicating me to have attempted murder. I was relieved he was going to prison for accusing me of something I did not do, and what was more upsetting was him trying to find excuses to justify his stupid actions. Even though he's my dad, he deserved to go to jail because he was being such a jerk about small things. I did not even feel a little bit for him going to jail. Why? He was a bad father. The saddest part is, Noah was only arrested for defamation of character, probably got a little slap on the wrist and bailed out. I don't know. He tried to set someone up for an attempted murder charge just because his son did not want to follow in his footsteps. I don't know, being a Kung Fu master sounds pretty cool to me. Let me know your thoughts about this one, guys. This story was just absolutely absurd. It's the only story on the video because that's how crazy this one was. Let me know. In the comment section down below, what would you do if you were OP and you were in this exact same scenario right there in OP's shoes? Drop your comments, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.